Welcome to it. Welcome to it. It is a little after 10 o'clock on a Thursday night, so you guys know what time it is. It is time for Talk That Talk. I am your host, Terrell Chatterbox Emerson, in studio. Let's go ahead and get to a wide shot. In studio with my guy, Markel Collins. Markel, what's good with you, brother?
Glad to be back in here,
Man, it's time to get to it. It's no time like the present. Episode 30. Let's go ahead and round it off. Episode 30 of season 6. Of course, this beautiful show is being shot from the beautiful studio here at the Harry Reid Research and Technology Park here on Sunset here in Las Vegas, Nevada. Kel, you're fresh off of work, brother. You're fresh off of work, so I appreciate you for being here. What's today? Thursday, right? Thursday. Almost done with the work week. How you feeling?
Over 40 hours already. Get into it.
Go ahead and give another one of those real quick. That's usually the way it goes, man. Hardworking people usually find themselves in situations and in scenarios like that. So congratulations to you. This is the season to do it. So I'm pretty sure that you're happy about that. I'm gonna draw some attention really quick to the center of the table. I went ahead and brought in Finn's bobblehead today. I went ahead and did it a little bit different in terms of what I did on Monday. Monday, I went ahead and came in with his celebratory jersey, the commemorative Finn jersey. And I went ahead and switched it up and brought in his bobblehead today. Again, rest in peace to Finn the Bad Dog. Fred Hassan. I haven't even been able to reach out to him this week, but I definitely want to go ahead and send some condolences to him as well. And again, guys, if you guys want to watch the live stream of this, you guys can do so by going to YouTube, going to the search bar, typing in Talk That Talk Radio Show. Once again, you can go to the search bar on YouTube, type in Talk That Talk Radio Show. I believe the exact @ on YouTube is @ Talk That Talk Radio Show 195. I think that's what it is. But yeah, man, we can go ahead and get right to it. Let's do the rest of the socials first, and then we'll get to my mom's tip in, and then I think we got a full slate. We'll see how it looks tonight. I actually got that's out there now too, so we'll see what happens. But let's do the rest of these socials. So in case you guys, in addition to our live stream, which used to be on Facebook, if you guys want to go ahead and follow us on all of our platforms, you guys can do so by going to Facebook, going to Instagram, going to Apple Podcasts, going to Spotify, going to the search bar, typing in Talk That Talk Radio Show. Once again, you would go to any of those platforms that I just said. You would go to the search bar, type in Talk That Talk Radio Show. The one thing that's different is our Twitter. Our Twitter is @ Talk That Talk LV. Once again, our Twitter is @ Talk That Talk LV. Yeah, man, let's get to the show. I got my mom's tip-ins. And then, first of all, my mom pointed out too, rather she brought it up to me, however she wants to put it. I've had this gray patch in my head since I was about 7, right? And it started with 1, but just over time, it's kind of enhanced, right? When I went to LA, my mom wanted to look at my hair or do something along the sorts. And she was asking me about my grays, and I told her, I said, there's nothing new. There's not a thing new. The only thing that's new is that camera is over my right shoulder. That's the only thing that's new. So aside from that, nothing else is new. Matter of fact, I thought about it coming in today because my allergies are kind of off today. I feel like my lips are dry. I was like, this is not the day to have dry lips with this high def ass camera sitting over my right shoulder. But let's get right to it, man. Let's get to my mom's tip in. I got 2 of them, probably a couple more, but I have one from Floyd Filson and I have one from Bruce Lee. You want to pick one? Floyd or Bruce? I'm assuming we're going Bruce, right? All right, I like this one. Do not allow negative thoughts to enter your mind, for they are weeds that strangle confidence. I'll read it one more time. Do not allow negative thoughts to enter your mind, for they are weeds that strangle confidence. You got anything about that tip in? Otherwise, we can get right to it. Be water. Let's get to it, man. Let's have a show, man. It's a Thursday night. I'm ready to kick back, ready to kick my feet up, ready to have some fun with it. I do have some specific notes to get to in terms of my handy dandy notebook over here, in terms of my game recaps. But for now, we're probably going to talk for the first. I don't know what just fell, but I don't like it. Oh, it was my tripod. Don't like that. But yeah, but we can go ahead and get started. We have basketball talk on the ledger first. Let's go ahead and give a round of applause to the Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you, Kel. It is a new season in the NBA. Obviously, it's a bunch of storylines we could talk about here in week one. In actually, what are we on? Day three? We on day three now? Day three of the NBA season. So yeah, man, we got a couple things we can talk about. I do have a couple written down, but you know how I typically like to let the flow of the show go. Where are we starting? I feel like I know where we're starting. Got to start with the champs, right?
Yeah.
Got to start with the champs. The champs raised banner number 18. Am I tripping or did they not show that ring ceremony?
I think that's the game until like the second quarter.
Oh, so see, this is not good. So I don't remember I don't know if they showed it or not, but I tuned in to watch it, and I didn't see it, so it got by me. But I'm pretty sure that somebody will let me know by the time that if somebody doesn't text me during this live, and we'll go from there. But Boston can now officially claim banner number 18. It was raised to the rafters ahead of a big opening night victory over the New York Knicks, a game that I cut off, but for some reason you kept watching.
I had to keep watching. I mean,
you didn't have to.
Well, no, I had to. I mean, this is the start of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. You know, not too often do you see NBA champions feel like they've been disrespected. I mean, after the Olympic run, I mean, Jason Tatum got put on the bench pretty much the whole Olympics. Jaylen Brown didn't even get put on the team after the finals MVP. And he becomes finals MVP. And was the champion. So, you know, I mean, Jason Tatum got what, 37 points? They hit 8 threes. Team tied the all-time record for most threes in the game. Yeah. So right now, I feel like you got to pick this up to start the season. I mean, they're defending champs, and I heard a crazy stat this week.
Okay.
Kristaps Porzingis only played 25 games.
I'll go double and triple check that because wait.
He only played,
and he's not going to play the first 2 months of this season.
He only played 25 games. And it's crazy. For most of the season last year, you look at the Celtics, they looked complete pretty much the whole entire season. And it looked like they were just missing something. And the moment they got Porzingis back, that took them over the top. And, you know, going into the finals, you were like, okay, you know, Dallas is going to make it a good series. And then you seen the impact Porzingis had, you were like, yeah, this is going to be a problem. So
you felt it right away in the finals too.
You felt, I think we had like 3 blocks in the first half or something crazy like that. So
video game.
Watch out for Boston yet again. And, I feel like this might be the year that Jason Tatum goes for the MVP. Yeah, I'm gonna say it. I'll give MVP goes.
Well, if you're gonna say that, I'll go ahead and take the other side of it, just in terms of the Jaylen Brown aspect, right? And I've talked about it before. And the funny thing is, too, shout out to you guys. And I say you guys because just listeners alike and things of that nature. You guys usually keep me on my P's and Q's. You guys usually keep me on my toes. So I mentioned on the D Hoop University, on the D Hoop podcast, I actually made it a point to say that Jason was lacking something, right? And I said it on this show before. I said, for me, if it ever came down to picking one, I would pick Jaylen Brown, understanding that maybe Jason Tatum rather has a higher or a larger skill set or a higher ceiling, whatever. I think Jaylen has something that you can't teach, rather, and that we haven't seen from Jason, and that's that dog mentality, right? And I feel like it gets overused now, right? And it gets all blown out and things of that nature. But I feel like when you think about what the Celtics had in the temperament of Jaylen Brown, right? That hit another level last season. So, and the reason why I want to shout you guys out is because nobody looked at me too crazy about it. And then you watch Starting Five, and his dad mentioned it, and his dad mentioned about something missing, that being the next level for Jason. And even Jason kind of talked about maybe never needing to get there. So that's also something to kind of keep an eye on. But going back to the Jaylen Brown point, how do you make that person even more angry? Why do you want that person to go out there and have more to prove?
How much? I mean, that's a $300 million man. Like I said, just came off the Finals MVP. I mean, just came off a Finals MVP.
Eastern Conference Finals MVP too. Now that we think about it,
right? Yeah. So I mean, yeah, like you said, he does have that dog mentality that Jason Tatum doesn't always have. But I feel like night one, I feel like we really seen it. Like Steve Kerr woke something up there. Like he's like, I know you hear him saying, yeah, you're just happy to be on the Olympic team. You got the W and all that. Happy to be a part of the team to go better. That's become a top 5, top 10 player in the NBA by not taking stuff like that first. You just won the NBA championship. You were the second best player on the team.
And I do have a number on Kristaps really quick. Kristaps missed 25 games last season. He played in 57. I was a little confused. I was worried for a second. You know what's interesting about Kristaps? Without winning that ring last season and performing the way he did, do you want to know his games played throughout his career? 72, 66, 48, 57, 43, 34, 17, 65. Last season, 57. If I'm him, I got a ring now, so you can't really talk about that. You can talk about whatever you want, but I don't have to listen. But yeah, man, I do think that is a valid point. Obviously, you got to start with the champs. You got to think about what they were able to do on opening night, especially to a team like the New York Knicks that a lot of people expect to make some noise throughout the rest of the season, right? So, do you want to talk? I have a lot of things over here. Do you want to talk Suns? Do you want to talk Lakers? Do you want to talk Sixers? Do you want to talk Russell Westbrook and the Nuggets? Do you want to what do you want to talk about? Let's talk Suns. All right, let's do it. Am I starting? You starting?
You start.
I'll start it off. Let's get to it. We talked about it before in terms of teams overreacting, right? And the state that the Suns are in right now, yes, they're playing a lot more defense, right? That's what it looks like. However, of course, being a Pacer fan all my childhood growing up, I think back to Frank Vogel. And again, I think back to the second time he was unceremoniously dumped. First time by the Lakers, probably when he was a scapegoat for a situation that it shouldn't have been. And then in this Phoenix situation, he was absolutely the scapegoat, right? So just in terms of what they've been able to kind of rebuild. Now, I don't want to say it's a traditional rebuild, right? But they had the Book years coupled with Chris Paul, Mikal Bridges. They've restructured that team in a quick fashion to the point to where they're right back. Well, supposed to be right back contending, right? It's gonna take a year or so for most teams to gel. I remember when the Big Three came together in Miami, and I forgot who said it, but somebody said it in the Eastern Conference and was like, I don't mean nothing. Like this is their first year. So to be honest, this might be our best year to try to catch them because they're gonna have to figure it out this year. And then lo and behold, Dallas caught them, right? So for me, those experimental years for Phoenix, it's over. Barring health, this team should be in the Western Conference Finals, probably competing for an NBA Finals.
Absolutely. I feel like the only question with the Suns is can they get the ball around it? Granted, that's why they brought in Tyus Jones. They missed the point guard last year. They were kind of doing point guard by committee. Blake had the ball in his hands a lot. But I feel like Tyus Jones is going to open up the field a lot. I feel like you've seen that night win. You can't even. He just pretty much anywhere. He is who he is.
Where does Kevin Durant rank for you in terms of all-time scorers?
I hate it.
Why?
Because it's like, if you say he's number one, people will be like, yeah. But if you drop him, it's like, where do you put him?
How low does he go?
Like,
Kevin Durant is a top 5 scorer in this league, and I don't care what anybody says.
like it's put him up there, like, all right, yeah, he's not all time leading scorer like LeBron and Kareem, but it's like, when it's time to go get a bucket, like he did night one, with the game on the line in overtime, get to the midi, pound dribble, step back. Oh, I didn't even see Darius coming on the backside. That's a bucket. Get out of
There's a level of finesse that comes with KD that makes everything look easy, right? And I remember the years of arguing with people in middle school about arguing that Melo was the best pure scorer in the league, and this was prime Kobe, right? Like this is yeah, 06, 07, 08 in that range. And I remember having to explain to people, and somebody said it. I think Stephen A. Smith might have said it, that Kobe was the best bad shot maker that he's ever seen. And while I agree, it goes back to my Melo point, right? And I told somebody, if Melo gets the ball at the elbow, even if he's facing the other way, you're cooked. It's over. Like, in that, for me, that's one moment, right? On top of the fact that Melo can knock down the three, on top of the fact that Melo can knock down the midi, he prefers the midi. On top of the fact that Melo can get to the cup, decent free throw shooter. I don't know, man. Again, like I told them in middle school, I know what I'm watching. That one looks different. I know what I've watched for the last 15 years with Kevin Durant. I don't care what you guys say. That one looks different.
That's a 7-foot shooter guard, or 7'2", or 7'1". However tall KD is, nobody ever knows for real, but
He knows. He do not want to tell us that he's 7 feet, and I don't know why. I don't know why. That's a personal preference. It gotta be because he swear up and down that he's not 7 feet, and we just look at him like, okay.
like you have to say nobody's gonna do you're Kevin Durant at this point. It's okay, dog. Like
A 7'3" does sound kind of crazy when you think about it.
Like, right? So, I mean, yeah, like back to the Suns, though. I mean, right now, like I feel like the big question around it last year, like even this year, is Bradley Beal. Like Bradley Beal is a player who needs the ball in his hands. I mean, you know, you look at somebody like Devin Booker. I mean, he just showed us in the Olympics. Like he doesn't have to have the ball in his hands. He can fall back and play second option, third if need be. If the situation arises, I mean, we seen him do it in Kentucky too, like right before then. So it's like, you know, Devin Booker can adjust like whatever he needs to. But honestly, yeah, Bradley Beal, people often call him, consider him a selfish player, or things of that nature. So
he does a lot of deferring in Phoenix.
He absolutely does. So right now, like we got to see if they can gel this year. Right now, hopefully Tyus Jones can be that piece they needed to help them gel, and got a new coach and everything. So we can see, what comes to that. But outside of that, it's really up to them. I feel like they got the role players around them. I mean, Rex Allen was top 5 in 3-point shooting last year, so got him retained. So really, this year it's really now or never at this point. Honestly.
We'll see if it's now or never for Phoenix. My mom texted me and said she wanted me to talk about the Lakers. I don't know what you want me to say. I was only going to talk about like 2 teams or so. So Lakers. Let's see what comes to mind. Same thing we said before in terms of the Laker hire of JJ Redick. This may be a franchise shifting hire. Everything's not going to be roses. That's what I would like to just let Laker fans know. I've watched Laker fans for my entire life mess up a good thing. I've watched it. Like, even when things were excellent for you guys may say, oh, we won this. How many could you have won? And I've watched the Lakers mess up a good thing several times. So this JJ Redick hire looks to be the real deal. I know a lot of people immediately were talking about Pat Riley comparisons, and I understood them. And just in terms of the basketball mind, I get it. And you can strike gold in terms of a coach anywhere, right? Like look at the Eric Spoelstra success story. Like there's ways to find brilliant minds in basketball, and I think JJ Redick is one of them. At the same time, too, I think he does provide an added uh he adds an added bite in a weird way, right? What's so funny when you watch Showtime and things of that nature and just docs that kind of talk about the old school Showtime Lakers, there came a point when various coaches at various points had to kind of they felt the need to kind of step in and shield the team. We'll take the brunt of the negativity. We'll take the brunt of whatever comes with what I'm gonna say, or us getting this tech, or us not taking this time out. And not to sound like that, I'm not really sure the last time I do have an answer. Do you remember the last time Brian had a head coach that took the brunt of the bullets for him? I like that one. I like the fact that you didn't say Spo. I think Brian helped Spo as much as Spo helped Brian, in the sense of Spo coaches stars differently now, right? He coached them differently during that tenure. But I was gonna say Mike Brown, Cleveland.
I like that one. I like that one. Mike Brown would take a lot of people, but I would say like that was early in LeBron's career. I mean, LeBron already
Absolutely.
had the weight of the world on him too, and I feel like Mike Brown's tenure really came into like the forefront towards the back half of LeBron's first stint in Cleveland. When people started comparing him to Kobe and like the best in the league, and it was starting to get to that point where it was like, all right, when you get a ring, like just waiting, like you're supposed to be chosen, and you can't. All right, you got some finals once, you got to swim on the Spurs, you got to get back and this and that. So I feel like he did take a lot of those years for him, but I feel like Ty Lue did as well too because
Yeah.
he knew what him coming back to Cleveland truly meant for LeBron, like beyond just basketball, but like what it meant to the city of Cleveland as well too. So I think, I would say Ty Lue in that
I like the fact that you mentioned both of those. This may be the first time that LeBron has been in a situation where his head coach may make the headlines before he can. And that may not be a bad thing for Brian. If Brian can have a season, especially at this stage of his career, where he can go and focus on ball, like imagine somebody asking JJ Redick a Brian contract question. I mean, there are certain points that I watch JJ's press conferences or just interactions with the media, and somebody somebody said, JJ, you could smile, you got the job now. And I kind of laughed it off and was like, that's probably what's wrong with Laker coaches now. You're right, he got the job. So he's taking the job serious. Is what it looks like. But I understand how that can be, being a media member and having somebody that you feel like is just like so hard nosed all the time. But in terms of what it yields on the basketball floor, on the basketball court, this might be exactly what the Lakers need. So I mean, we'll see. Speaking of, let's move on really quick, just across the hall while we get to our "That's Out There Now" segment. I want to talk about the Clippers, but we can talk about the Clippers after we get into this "That's Out There Now" because Kendrick Perkins came around to, I don't want to say came around, but Kendrick Perkins recently said something publicly that I've said for a little bit, right? And he said that there is probably a time coming up, and I'm paraphrasing, but there's a time coming up, probably sooner rather than later, where Kawhi Leonard should contemplate retirement. That's not my "That's Out There Now." Did you hear Draymond Green's response? He's and let me double and triple. I'm pretty sure this is because I double because this. I hope it's a joke, but I've seen this a couple of times, and I just want to make sure I double check it again. Sitting right here on this show. Yeah, okay. So Draymond Green came out and said for anybody to be pushing him towards retirement, let's look at what KP looked like his last 2 or 3 seasons in the league, averaging about 2.5 points a game. And nobody urged him to retire, even though they probably should have. Now, I would love to like play a cricket sound and just let that breathe, but you are crying right now, and I would like to know why. Because I do have a take on that, and then we can get into Kawhi and what the original conversation was about.
That's just such a great response. I mean,
What do you want me to do?
I mean, my God. I mean, that's such a great response. But I mean, yeah, like, it's crazy. Kawhi's been taking a lot of shots. I mean, we just heard Stephen A. come out and say, like, he's the worst superstar of all time. Like, that's a whole other conversation for another day. But, yeah,
Oh, that's so not right. Oh, that's so not, because I thought of some names, and you're only gonna make enemies if you make this a conversation. But there are so many superstars that are way worse than Kawhi Leonard. A million of them, and a million of them. I'll leave it at that.
yeah, but
There's a lot of them on his New York Knicks that we could talk about if you really want to get there.
yikes. Yeah, Kawhi's really like he's really in that place. Like, yeah, he's getting older. Like, he's goes back after his career, but I mean, he's a two-time NBA champion, two-time Finals MVP. Injuries have like really played it, made it make it look. I mean, if you go back before Kawhi was his career, if you asked him, hey, you're gonna if you would have told him you're gonna be a two-time Finals MVP, you're gonna agree with two different teams. How do you think Kawhi did? Coming out of San Diego State, being a 15th pick,
It was 15 to Indiana, and we traded him for George Hill.
Right.
Don't worry, it's not PTSD or anything.
You know what's crazy? I didn't want to let George Hill go. Wow. I forgot about that.
You want to know what makes that trade even more sick? I was geeked that night. I was like, get him out of here. I was like, who cares? We got a point guard now. Yeah, how did that work?
Yeah. But thanks for the ring. Yeah, so I mean,
Forgot I was talking to a Spurs fan.
Kawhi's in a real interesting place right now. Luckily for him, he did sign that 3-year extension because
but they wouldn't give it to Paul George. I guess in their mind, they was like, we can't give it to both of y'all. Like, we can give it to one. We can't do both.
I mean, they both liabilities. I mean, people trying to forget about it. Like, let's not act like Paul George wasn't at the time of his back and snapping his leg in half. Like, I get it. He was second MVP going to the OKC. Mm-hmm. He was had a solid stint in LA as well too. But
there was a lot of injuries in LA. People are viewing him a little differently. A little. They're thinking of games, right? Now, granted, there were big games that he was there for that his partner in crime wasn't rather. So that is something to kind of, I guess, an added feather in his cap. But it's only so much when he wasn't on the court as well. I want to get to that Draymond point for 1 second. For 1 second. So what? Like, so what? Like, the point is, Perk averaging 2.5 points in year, what was it, 13, 14, 15, 16, whatever it was. First of all, he was never on the court to score. Oh, I wanted to say some stuff. For whatever it's worth, Perk continued to get that Cleveland stint was Fugazi. We knew that, but he continued to get looks as a vet, whether it was for toughness, whether it was for rebounding, whether it was for mentorship, whatever it was for. How does that change the fact that he's telling somebody who has dealt with consistent knee injuries that maybe they should think about hanging it up? Not really sure why that perturbed. And I'm gonna be completely honest. This is just me throwing something at a wall. Neither side probably would even give it any thought because I think these are just two gentlemen that don't like each
I can believe that.
other. And anything that Perk say, Draymond will get on them.
I mean, they both got that. You know what I'm saying? That rah like flashing tight mentality, like both of them really. So it's like I can see how they would butt heads, but
Over another man's knee.
yeah. But I get why Draymond felt the need to come in and like stand up for him because Kawhi doesn't talk. So we never hear from him. So that type of situation, like same thing with the Stephen A. comment. Like Kawhi's not gonna come out and speak that or say anything. Like we hear more from Kawhi's uncle than we hear from him. You know what I mean? So it's like,
which again, I think there's something to that, and we can end it here. But I feel like there's something to it only because I've said it before. You're right. Kawhi isn't going to come out and say anything about his injury, right? You know what I do find interesting though? Everybody could be up in arms, Draymond included. What if Kawhi heard what Kendrick said and was like, it's closer than you think? Why couldn't that be a possibility? And I've said it already. I haven't talked to anybody, but I'm 90% sure, like I'm convinced rather, 90% convinced that upon retirement, within that next year after retirement, there will be a doc, a short film, something on Kawhi Leonard's injury history, and it will go all the way back to 2014 with that quad. He's never been right since. And I've said it since we were at UNLV. When that doc comes out, when that short film comes out, whenever that comes out, everybody's gonna look and go, that's what he was dealing with. For now, why talk? If I'm him, I wouldn't talk either. But what is gonna happen? He is gonna have a Tim Duncan like retirement. He's gonna wake up one day the same way he signed with the Clippers. He's gonna wake up one day and be like, "I'm done, yo."
Kawhi is one of those unique athletes, like physically, because he's got a long wingspan, extremely oversized hands. And it's just like you never look at Kawhi as like a super athlete, but he's arguably one of the greatest defenders ever. Who can also score and kill you. So it's like, when Kawhi's at the top of his game when he's healthy, I mean, you said it, he hasn't been the same since 2014. But I feel like he used that last gas in Toronto. And after that, he's been downhill ever since. And even during that Toronto run, I feel like he still could have been a little bit better because he has been dealing with these injuries on and off. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure he didn't play that whole season or even close to that whole season.
No, first of all, part of him even going there, they agreed that it would be not a minutes restriction, but there would be like some sort of load management to protect him. And that was one of the things that they kind of agreed to upon him going there. Obviously, they were trying to sweeten the deal for the following year, but like he said before, that contributed to them winning a championship. Their willingness to give him rest throughout the year.
Yeah, so he was on that. We're not going to see prime Kawhi. Like that's come and gone, and it's not going to happen. Like it makes you question: can he still be the true number one on a contending team? And that's crazy to say about Kawhi. At this point, he's not really he's not on the court. So like we just don't know. Like how are we ever gonna know if he's never on the court?
Hey man, some people's peaks are just higher than others. When he first got to the league, we need you to be a defensive stopper. We got Tony, we got Manu, we have Tim, even in his older age. Then 2014 rolled around and it was like, oh, okay, wait a minute. Hold on, wait a minute. Maybe you can do a little more than just defend, right? And then Kawhi happened, right? He turned into Kawhi. And like you said, by the time he got to Toronto, respectfully, was he on his way down from his prime, technically? I'm not looking at ages. I'm not looking at years or anything of that nature. But if you just look at the trajectory of where he's been since, some people's peaks are short-lived. May be a little bit higher than other people's. May just not have lasted as long as other people's. Speaking of lasting long, that 3-game losing streak for the Knights lasted quite a while, but it's over now. It is now a thing of the past. The team put together a 6-1 victory over the LA Kings most recently from the Fortress. I was at that game. When's the last time you been to a night game? Oh my Lord.
I don't know. Second year. No. I'm gonna say inaugural season game 3 versus the Red.
And that's it. So that's going to change this year. I'm not worried about that. That's going to change this year. But speaking of change, head coach Bruce Cassidy made a in-net change. Actually, he didn't do it during the game, but he did make an in-net change. And he went ahead and opted to start Ilya Samsonov instead of Aiden Hill. That would be the second straight start for Ilya Samsonov and his third start overall. And for the second time in his 3 starts, he gave up 1 goal. Keep in mind, guys, he was actually in the net during that 3-1 victory over Anaheim during the 3-game homestand to start the year. Saw a lot of shots in this one as well, but for some reason, it didn't seem as theatrical this time around. It didn't seem as circusy, right? In terms of his saves, there were some that were definitely acrobatic, but for the most part, I feel like the Aces, almost at the Aces. I feel like the Knights kind of provided a pretty clean game for Ilya, right? And I think that's good to see, considering they went into this game without Shea Theodore, who went out with an illness. So down a defenseman, you have guys making their NHL debut, tallying their first points, things of that nature, all in the first 2.5, 3 weeks of this NHL season for your Vegas Golden Knights. And then you follow that up in terms of Shea Theodore with him signing a 7-year extension to stay here in Vegas. Actually, earlier today, as a matter of fact. So that's another thing that's kind of shored up for the Knights. And I know in terms of Knights fans, I know that they're happy to see a familiar face stick around.
I still kind of like question like where the team is still. I mean, granted, it's still very in the season.
Right.
Like just come out that 3 games, he was pretty good. What can this team be like? Like I know you talk about it every week, but like they paid a lot of money for the defense. Like when it comes down to it towards the end of the year, we'll be able to rely on the defense. Obviously, they're scoring no problem whatsoever, but
I'm at, because I was listening to you talk, so now I'm thinking about how I want to play this. I think the ceiling, I do think the ceiling is a championship. I do. I think the ceiling is a championship. The floor, however, this is really interesting. I would like to see how Matt feels about it, actually, in hindsight. But I think the ceiling is a championship, as I repeat myself for the 17th time. I think the floor is, I think the floor could be barely missing the playoffs. Now, keep in mind, if this team doesn't make the playoffs, I think heads are going to roll. I do. But if we want to throw in a whataboutism, anything can happen toward the end of the year, right? So what if Edmonton peaks at the right time, right? What if Seattle peaks at the right time? So we've seen the Kings come out of nowhere in previous years, right? And peak at the right time. So I don't necessarily sense that for this season, but that's how far the spectrum can go, in my humble opinion, about this team. This team, as I mentioned before, I don't know, especially of an expansion team, but I don't know of another team that has had this many big name changes and has continued to bring in big name after big name after big name. Ilya Samsonov is not a small name in the sport, guys. And the funny thing is, I was sitting there watching him during those one goal outings for him, and obviously both were at home. We know Bruce Cassidy more than some hockey coaches. He's more so willing to ride the hot hand. So when it comes to postseason time, we've seen it happen with Adin Hill before. One false move with Adin, and I could see him going to Ilya back-to-back games, maybe 3 straight games. I've seen it before. Keep in mind the power play came alive in this one as well. 2 for 2 for the Knights. Tomas Hertl, 4 points on the night. First of all, he had 3 points in the first period. That was his first 3-point game as a Golden Knight. And then Kel was actually just talking about it a second ago. The offense for Vegas here at the Fortress is completely different than it is on the road. I believe it averages a little over 2.5 on the road, a little over 2.5 goals on the road. Here at home, they're averaging more than 5.5 goals at home. So it's a completely different team when they're playing in front of their Vegas faithful.
I feel like that's been the thing with this team. Like, they can always score goals, like, especially when they're at home. I mean, riding the crowd. That's a given for you.
How would you know? You're not in the bit, never mind.
Well, I television. Like,
that atmosphere is insane.
I mean, the one game I did go to, like, mind you, that was the first ever season. I was just like, yeah, I think we got something. I think, granted they were the first team touchdown. Like, I had a hoodie before the team.
I can believe it. I can believe it.
I was too excited. I'm like, man, Vegas actually got a professional team. So to see how amazing the team's been up to this point, to see where they're headed. Like, I mean, after coming off of the championship, after being the expansion team, they should not still be contenders. That's not normal anywhere ever. So, I mean, I'm interested to see where they go this year because they're kind of at that tipping point where they should just start to dip off a little bit, but they, like you just said, they keep bringing in more talent. So.
Again, this front office continues to make me look crazy because you kind of just talked about it. I expected last season, this season, just to kind of start to be the taper, right? Start to kind of taper off. And, I mean, you can't taper off if you're bringing in big name after big name. So this team apparently continues to or will continue to contend, not only in the Pacific Division, but contend in the NHL. In terms of the Pacific Division, they sit with a 4-2-1 overall record. That's good for 9 points. Everybody's looking up at Calgary. Calgary still doesn't have a regulation loss this season. They have 1 overtime loss, but they do have 5 victories. They're sitting atop of everybody with 11 points. Tomorrow, I'll be back at the Fortress at 3 p.m. Vegas' second game of a 4-game homestand. They will take on the Ottawa Senators. I will be there. If the Knights are victorious in that one, that will be a 5-0 start at home at the T-Mobile Arena. Do you want to know what I'm doing later that day? Later tomorrow night, I should say. UNLV's biggest game of the season so far. Boise State, number 17 Boise State. Number 17 Boise State from Allegiant Stadium, Friday night, 7:30 p.m. So I'm going from a hockey game to a football game, guys. I'm going from the Knights to your Rebels. Currently, Boise is favored by 3.5 points. This game is for first place in the Mountain West. How you feeling? A little less than 24 hours from kickoff.
Kind of nervous because overall, collectively as a team, I feel like UNLV can be good. But Ashton Jensen, you got to proceed with caution. I mean, Heisman candidate, having one of the greatest seasons we ever seen. But I feel like UNLV defense can pick it up. I feel like Jackson Wizard is going to make a lot of big plays, just like he did against Syracuse. Indiana, so type of that game.
Insane.
I feel like he's going to be all over the field yet again. In my opinion, I think UNLV has to keep the ball out of Boise State. I think they have to establish and put together a lot of long drives. If they have their defense on the field too long, I feel like it could come out dividing. But in terms of offense, I feel like they have enough points to keep up with Boise State.
Do me a quick favor. Just use that mic in front of you. I just cut that mic on. We're gonna swap mics. I think people are saying on the stream that they can't hear that second mic. So we can keep going. Hopefully. Somebody will text me, hopefully. We'll see what happens. But go ahead, man. Talk to me.
Yeah, just ask me this. Yeah.
You mentioned talk to me.
No, I just feel like he has the defense to slow him down. Like granted, he's been going crazy against almost every team. I think crazy enough, I think the one bad game he had was against FCS team or something like that, which is kind of wild. Yeah, so I really believe that he can slow him down.
Now, slow him down is the operative word, right? Operative phrase, and I feel like what's slow him down? Like, what does that mean? Like, first of all, no, answer the question. What's slow him down? And then I'll get back to my point.
If they can hold him to 120, 130 yards, maybe 1 or 2 touchdowns, I feel like they're in business. Because, like I said, we've seen UNLV in shootouts this season. We know they can score the ball. So defense can just keep passing against you in that range and kind of force them to throw the ball more.
So, in order to force them to throw the ball more, you got to win on early downs. And in order to win on early downs, you have to stop Ashton Jency, which is why I asked you, what does that mean, right? I've been wrong this season about UNLV, and this may be another one of those situations where they'll have to prove me wrong again. I don't know if they'll be able to pull it out, right? I'm not going to sit here and predict a loss, actually. You know what I will say, though? This feels eerily familiar. It reminds me of the build-up to the Mountain West Championship game last year. And everybody was like, all right, forget that San Jose State game. We ended up getting here anyway. I'm not even talking about the team. I'm talking about the energy, right? Team too, kind of. And the energy in the city was, this is our shot, right? This is our shot to turn some heads and do it on the biggest stage you can do it on. As we've said kind of all season long, and especially this week leading up to it, this is going to be the biggest game of the season thus far. And depending on the way that this season shapes up, this may be the biggest game of the season before we get to a Mountain West Championship and or a bowl game, right? Well, now a bowl game. So, and a bowl game. Because of that, I feel like this team performs better than it did last year. I don't know that you can stop Ashton Jency. So my question to you is, I was waiting to see what your low end was on the prediction of his numbers. You said 120. I was thinking 160. Can UNLV win if Ashton Jeanty runs for 160 yards?
Because that's going to open up the passing game. Now, granted, they're not the most elite dynamic type passing team, but it opens up everything. And I feel like it's going to come down to field position too. If he ends up in a lot of bad spots, they're going to take a break. The offensive line is pretty nasty. It's not just him. I know you have like a big running and winning his offensive line, but like if you don't run 2,000 yards, you got to off your line. I don't think that man would have put on as much people.
You know what I will say though, and this is just completely random. Just thinking podcast topic wise, any man with locks that bets his locks is like okay with losing his locks. I'm not betting my locks. Like I'm not even putting that on the table because if something were to go left, I'm not cutting them. So yeah, now I'm over here just false betting, and I don't want to do that. But yeah, man, I do have some numbers I do want to get to in a second. Before we do that, as we mentioned before, this is first place in the Mountain West, and this has some real significant bearings on the college football playoff, right? And the funny thing is, the college football playoff, depending on what happens throughout the college football season, can be completely different. It could be, and I'm gonna name just random teams. It could be Liberty, right? Which it won't be now after the loss to Kennesaw State, but the Liberties, the North Texas, the Tulanes, the FIU. I just want to name a bunch of just random schools, right? Who knows who will actually get that 12th spot in the college football playoff? But you think to conferences like the Mountain West, where there's some prestige there. And I know it may feel weird because I went to UNLV, so it definitely feels weird for me to talk about UNLV and possibly the college. For everybody else or anybody feel or sound a little weird, yeah, Boise made it. It wouldn't really shock anybody, right? Take care of business tomorrow night, and maybe UNLV doesn't sound so crazy there either.
For a football program,
when I came here, sorry to cut you off, but I just thought about it. When I came here, this is going to add to your point. When we lost to Howard, and I say we because I was a student at the time, and there was a look on my face, like on the sideline, and I was like, yo, what just happened? Somebody walked by and was like, first year? And I told you, like, it was burned into my memory. Following that, I went home and told somebody was like, UNLV got a football team? I just looked at him. I don't know. This is 2017. I don't know what we have at this present moment. Like you said, fast forward 7 years later, it's looking like we got a pretty significant program.
That's what everybody really watched college football. Yeah, you have about that day, right? But UNLV, I mean,
just retired too.
UNLV, they're in a great place. It's not those dark days that we constantly used to. This being this bowl eligible this early this season. I mean, you brought up that Howard loss. I mean, before people around the city was like, all right, UNLV has this window to win their first few games when they're playing lower level teams. If not, after that, that ain't good luck. It's not that. You're in the conversation with a good state. Towards the top of the conference.
Currently, UNLV sits atop of the conference, 6-1 overall, 2-0 in the conference. Boise State right behind them, 5-1, 2-0 in the conference. All the marbles tomorrow. I want to give you a couple of Mountain West stats if I can, really quick, if your computer cooperates. Let's see what we got. So, in terms of team leaders, right? Boise State leads all of the Mountain West in total yards. They average more than 500 yards a game. UNLV is fourth with 429. Now, in terms of defensive leaders, UNLV is number one in terms of points allowed with just under 23. Boise is fifth, averaging just over 26. Do we need to discuss rushing? But we can do it. Boise State leads the Mountain West with nearly 290 rush yards a game. UNLV ranks right behind them with 251. If nothing else, this game should move fast. There's going to be a lot of runs, right? A lot of handoffs, a lot of reverses, a lot of jet sweeps, things like that, right?
Absolutely. I feel like this is one of those games where we're going to have to go if Boise State jumps out to a early lead, they're going to have to be and like I said, they should run the ball to, like I said, keep the ball out of Boise State's head, but this is not one of those games where you just kind of hang around and score here, score there. I feel like this game is going to turn into a shootout very fast.
So let me explain something to you really quick and just give you forewarning. If your prediction were to be correct and this were to turn into a shootout, and it were to turn into a shootout early, Ashton Jeanty is running for close to 100 yards. If it's a possibly on whether UNLV can win if he runs 160, give me a chance. Give me a percentage chance if he runs for 200. It's worth thinking about. You really have trust in this team, and I'm not that I don't have trust. I think if they're gonna have a 50% chance to win, he can't touch 200. If he touches 200, a 50% chance to win.
I just been.
Do you feel like you've been more wrong, or in the 20 seasons that you watched leading up to this one?
All those other seasons, I mean, I expected. Well, not last year though, because they shocked the world last year. I mean,
the best part about it is they didn't shock themselves, which that gives any UNLV fan or student or whatever the case, player, that should give them an added vote of confidence for sure. Because this team talked about it last year. This is what we're supposed to do. This is what it's supposed to look like.
I mean, you would hope so. I mean, teams like the regular stadium, renovated practice facility. I mean, there's been a true investment into the football program. I mean, we're starting to see the results of it. But the only question left for them to answer is, okay, you guys can win games within your conference, lower-ranked team, but can you win that big game? And we still haven't seen that. So tomorrow is going to be not only important for the program, but good because you got to win big time games, especially within the conference. I mean, Boise State, Mountain West has belonged to Boise State, even on the off year. They're always on the mind when it comes to Mountain West. When you think Mountain West football, it's Boise State first and foremost. So.
And everybody else tends to follow. The funny thing is, in the Mountain West, you usually have, I've said it before, you usually have these hectic seasons, right? And it usually still boils down to Fresno State, Boise State, San Diego State, one of those schools, right? And UNLV has a chance right now to kind of change what recent memory looks like. And recency bias is going to be really heavy considering we're moving into this conference realignment 2 seasons from now. You talked about the Rebels playing inside of Allegiant Stadium, and we know Allegiant Stadium is the home of the Las Vegas Raiders. So now I think it's time that we just pose a question openly. What can we do to fix the Las Vegas Raiders?
Uh, overall, we're taking steps in the right direction. Tom Brady's part of it now. First and foremost, Fonda. Derek Carr was stabilized for a very long time. Had a lot of time materialized. Now, right for the rest of the season, I don't want to say it's the season so early in the year, but right now they should be thinking toward Max Crosby still wants to win. Washington Adams is gone. Not really much else to look forward to at the moment in terms of winning or where the team's going. Yeah, direction. What direction is this team going? You know, because I know.
That is a valid question. I feel like the Raiders are at a point right now where, and this is gonna be so crazy because I don't know if they can even physically do it at this present moment. The Raiders are at a point where you got to look at the cup half full. And for anybody that wants to kind of turn their nose up at that, which I know Raider fans are tend to do at something like what I just said, the issue is you just traded Devontae Adams, right? And by the way, who played after missing 3 games with a hamstring injury here in Vegas. Interesting to point that out. I just thought it would be necessary to do so. That should give you a clear indication on what the makeup of this team currently is. Now, nobody came into the season expecting the Raiders to win 2 games, right? I've had conversations over the past 2 weeks about the Raiders possibly losing out. That never crossed my table during the offseason. So I understand how hard it is to hear something like appreciate the cup being half full, right? Because you got to figure out what's in the cup. What is it then? Even with the complete overhaul, I've said it before, this is football, right? So you can't entirely do it. You can't strip the cupboard bare. I'm going to continue to say it. You can't do it. You can restock the shelves. You can take out the old cans and you can put in some new ones. A couple of them are going to stay. Now, for me, Antonio Pierce is going to stay. I think it's bigger than just win-losses, especially because he doesn't have the roster that Josh McDaniels had a couple of years ago. AP, in my opinion, you look at what this defense is doing, even in their losses. There was a 20-15 loss that I was present for at SoFi Stadium where the defense allowed 2 touchdowns. Only 14 points. Am I wrong? Might not even have been that. I think they allowed 13 points. They might have allowed 1 touchdown and 2 field goals. Or did they go for an extra point and miss it? All these games are starting to merge together. But you had a defensive touchdown in those 20 points for the Rams. So if I'm the defense, I'm looking at a game where a healthy other team, 259 total yards, 2 for 10 on third downs. They hold the ball for just over 26 minutes, I think. 26-12, I think. And we lose. Not only do we lose, we only are able to muster 5 field goals. That's a credit to AP. I know a lot of people may not want to hear it. It is. And another credit to AP, in my humble opinion, based on the quarterbacks that we've heard that he wanted in the building, respectfully, Aiden O'Connell, Gardner Minshew, Jimmy Garoppolo, Brian Hoyer, whoever else, none of those guys fit that mold. He's asked for CJ Stroud. He's asked for Jaden Daniels. None of the guys that I've mentioned that have done silver and black over the last 2 seasons halfway fit that mold.
It's kind of crazy because, like, historically, the Raiders are one staple in the NFL in franchises, and that fan base is too. So it's like players want to come here and play. You've seen the talent over the past few years.
You got one now that don't want to leave in Max.
Yet they still can't get together. So it's just constantly mind-boggling. It's just like what is it? What is it that's going to make everything click? Because they have all the makings of what they need to be a winning team, consistent. But now you look at the situation like, yeah, they regress back to the team, and it's like, okay, now what do you do?
So I'll tell you what they do now. They chug forward. They have no choice. They're 2-5 on the year. By the way, when I was making my notes, I wrote 2-4, and then I had to look at my list and was like, okay, they're 2-5. I think nobody is also talking about the fact that they've lost their first 2 games in the division, and they haven't played Kansas City yet. So they're one of 6 teams in the AFC currently with a 2-5 record or worse. And now you're going to play the last remaining undefeated team in the National Football League, in the Kansas City Chiefs, on Sunday from Allegiant Stadium, 1:25 p.m. kickoff. I will be there. The Raiders are 1-6 in their last 7 games against the Chiefs. That one victory did come on Christmas Day of last year. So they won the most recent meeting, right? And then keep in mind, too, and this is completely, like, hilarious if you really want to think about it. Since that game, the Chiefs haven't lost a game that mattered. Preseason aside, they didn't lose any more games during the regular season last year. They won their 2nd straight championship and are off to an undefeated start to this season. Can't make it up, man.
We talked about this couple of weeks ago. Like, this type of game that the Raiders get up for, go out and shock the world. I mean, granted, the Chiefs haven't been playing up to their peak to this point.
Still ain't lost.
It's crazy. I mean, it's disgusting. Like
I'm so mad you said that.
It was like a week or 2 ago. I just looked at my plate. I was like, so they're going to win again, right? Yeah. So imagine when Patrick Mahomes wakes up and plays like Patrick Mahomes and not this regular above average quarterback we're seeing right now. Imagine he wakes up and he's just like, you know what? I want to go for it.
To D-Hop, no less.
And just about to pick up D-Hop. To pick up D-Hop from the Titans.
Who should have never been there, by the way. That's his fault.
That was his fault. That's my team.
That's his fault. And it went south quickly once he got there, too.
Yeah, so,
oh, my gosh, bro.
It it's not like Patrick Mahomes. You need the top wide receiver. You're like, oh, let's go pick up a former top five receiver. Just because, why not? Why not?
Somebody with probably the surest hands since Larry Fitzgerald.
It just blows my mind how he constantly just get more and more. Patrick Mahomes doesn't need more help. He doesn't need more help, but we messed up. Let him get his leg worthy. He's been crazy for him all year. Yeah, she right goes down and keep rolling.
This group is unlike anything. Now, for whatever it's worth, we saw the Patriots do it, right? We saw the Steelers continue to compete, right? Baltimore too. This one feels different. And I don't want to take a shot at Brady and say, oh, the quarterback feels different. All of this feels different. This, to me, feels like what we just referenced, what I mentioned a couple of years back in terms of the Mountain West. I think the NFL is going through all of this. I think we are going to have upsets on Wild Card Weekend. I think C.J. Stroud and the Houston Texans can make the AFC Championship. I think Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid will be at Disney World at the end of this season again. I do. I just do. I just do. I think we're doing all of this fighting for 22 weeks for them to still win another Lombardi trophy. I do.
It's one of those situations I have to keep crying because it's so bad. It's so bad to just watch this team come out and just sputter week after week this entire year. And when it comes down to it, 15 is still 15, just enough. And that's another thing. And you can't stop it. And at a certain point in time, we got to really have a conversation about and where he ranks amongst all-time players.
We have to.
I mean, this is record in Philly. This what he's been doing in Kansas City. I mean, deservedly so. A lot of the attention goes to Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, those guys. I mean, hats off to head coach. I mean, I feel like Andy Reid was just a match made for players like Patrick Mahomes. I feel like Michael Vick allowed Andy Reid to walk, so he could run with Patrick Mahomes. Because some of the plays he just allows him to get away with. I mean, this man throwing behind the back pass. I don't care.
He's gonna do it in the regular season one day.
I don't care who.
That's gonna happen.
He threw a behind the back pass.
And said he did it because the guy went the wrong way.
So even last week. In the win last week, some of the passes he just flipped. I mean, every quarterback gets taught from the time they're 6, 7 years old. Do not throw back behind your body. What did he do? Throw it back to the
and he does it often. And you can see it sometimes. Sometimes he rolls out with the full intention to throw it back the other way.
I'm just always like, how is he getting away with this against NFL defenses? You're not allowed to do that. You're not supposed to do that.
I know they said Brett Favre played with the joy of like a backyard football game. Yeah, load up some Patrick Mahomes highlight film. Yeah, I think this is it. This is the final topic of the night. We had a little bit of a 10-minute delay to the start of this show. Shout out to Markel for coming in fresh off the press. But yeah, man, we just got about it. We can get out of here. It's our regular Thursday night show. The Talk That Talk Media Company brings you the Talk That Talk radio show. The World Series, man, all roads rather lead to this, and it took us bi-coastal, man. It took us, or will take us rather, from LA to New York. I'm not gonna lie, I've been in and out of, a couple of bags. I've been peeking in the laundry, through the closet, and if you guys are gonna make me pick a coast, you know which coast I'm gonna pick. So I'm gonna try to make it a point, and over the next week or so, every time I step out to these games, it'll probably be something subtle, maybe not so subtle. It'll be something on my body for sure. And the funny thing is, out here in Vegas, it's usually something LA on my body anyway. So now we get a World Series. We get an all-time World Series in the Yankees and the Dodgers. This will be the 12th meeting in the World Series between the Yankees and the Dodgers. You want to guess how many the leader has won? Or guess the or not or and guess the leader. So it's 11 meetings so far.
I feel like for some reason, since the Yankees got the most World Series, I feel like the Dodgers lead this series. And I would say, I would say,
Okay. I thought you were gonna go 6-5. So do you want the number first or do you want the leader first? Number is 8-3. 8-3 in favor of the Bronx Bombers. So 12th meeting looming, and the Yankees have a chance to pick up their 9th World Series championship over the Dodgers. Everybody's going to talk about Shohei versus Aaron Judge, right? That's going to be the storyline. Two historic competitors, two historic resumes, right? And now they're only going to add to it. One of those two will have World Series champion added to their resume. I'm excited to see it. I'm excited for a couple of different reasons, but I'm also excited behind the core, some of the other core players that people aren't talking about. If you want to talk about matchups, cool. Shohei and Aaron Judge. But let's also talk about Mookie Betts and Juan Soto. Let's also talk about Freddie Freeman and Anthony Rizzo. We haven't mentioned Giancarlo Stanton. We haven't mentioned Garrett Cole. We haven't mentioned Walker Buehler because we know how he can perform when it matters on a stage like this. I don't know, man. I know the World Series starts tomorrow. I'm excited to get to it.
It's crazy. I'm a diehard Yankees fan. Well, I'm not diehard, but I've been supporting Yankees stuff. So first time since '09 that we've gotten back. You mentioned Juan Soto. I mean that's shot at bonkers. I mean, what a way to get the World Series.
You want to talk about somebody in the market in baseball? That's who you market.
Absolutely. I mean, hey, shout out to the Yankees for making that trade. You really can't do for it.
Y'all gonna have to pay for it. The Yankees have no problem spending money. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, no.
Things to do it.
That's no big problem. But especially if it leads to the first race, 09. They glad the Yankees. How much? How many?
Now, I feel like with no, you're good. I feel like with the Yankees, I feel like they're. Do you feel like they're under the same pressure? My dad is listening. Maybe he'll text me. Do you feel like the Yankees and the Dodgers are under the same pressure right now?
No, not so much. Because they're one of the greatest players in the franchise. It was really. I feel like that ring was more so about him than about the Dodgers. So I mean, the fact that Dodgers already won. I don't feel like the pressure is necessarily there the way it once was before. The Yankees, on the other hand, a lot of superstars. I mean, for years it's been pitching together.
This is about as big of a stage as you're gonna get on.
That's why you carry the Yankees.
You know what I find interesting about that question, though, that I did ask? I'll take the LA stance real quick, right? So working for Dodgers Nation before I came out to Vegas. I remember covering games, and I remember the series against Washington, right? When Clayton had to come out of the bullpen. And this was 2016. And pardon. I remember that season, I think the Dodgers had won their 6th straight, 7th straight, something crazy in the West division title, right? And my dad got to a point where my dad was like, dog, we win these often. Like, and I'm look at me being an Angel fan. How does it feel? But I'm sitting here like listening to him talk. He's like, dog, we win these. Like, this isn't the problem with us. We'll get to the postseason and we'll see Atlanta and we'll shell up. We'll get to the postseason and we'll see Washington and shell up. We'll get to the postseason and Washington and shell up. We'll get to the postseason and see the Cardinals and shell up. And then the Dodgers won in 2020, right? And for some reason, I can't attest and speak to how every franchise would have reacted. But I think the Dodgers are one of few. The Yankees probably would have been another one. They're one of few where the Dodger fans were like, yeah, we won a title, albeit in a short season. If I'm in that clubhouse, hey, dog, my ring ain't shortened. They treated us the same way. We are world champs. Now, because of that, for some reason, it appears that these first round bounces, these division round bounces, have gotten under Dodger fans' skin a little worse since the World Series. So I did need to, this is a radio show, so I did need to add all of that, right? All for me to come around and say that I agree with you. But I wanted to obviously say, I think the win for the Dodgers right now, this is where I'll get to the Yankees and why I think more pressure is on them. The Dodgers this season, yeah, they had another situation where it's like, okay, we're here, right? We're here. Look at what the Dodgers have endured in the postseason. The Dodgers haven't really had consistent starting pitching during this entire postseason run. So to make it to the World Series, if I'm a Dodger fan, and we know that they're not all rational, but if I'm a Dodger fan, I'm sitting back and I'm thinking, in a year where things not only weren't perfect in the postseason, they were far from perfect. Like, it was the opposite. And we found a way to get there. That might be the win, right?
I don't think so. I mean, it's been the no show all year. I swear, the way he's playing, it's like nobody told him the postseason started. like he's still just in his zone. He's just going out there and playing like it's a regular season game. He's just dominating with the bat.
He hasn't pitched this year.
Yeah.
Just his history, right?
Yeah. So I mean, it's just
it's otherworldly.
We've never seen him. I mean, people want to like say Babe Ruth. I mean, like, so in this modern era of baseball, we've never seen. I mean, it's Travis Hunter. Like you're not supposed to see her do this type of thing at this high or whatever. So, I mean, yeah.
This man had a 50-50 year. Like, I'm still trying to wrap my head around a pitcher that stole 50 bases.
Let's see what he does if he only has to focus on one thing.
Oh, just set a couple records, probably bring home an MVP. Just nothing like. I mean, nothing heavy, nothing crazy. Just a couple of light things. As far as the Yankees, though, right? The Yankees have had seasons where they haven't been as consistent as the Dodgers throughout the years, right? As of late. They'll miss the postseason. Or they'll make the postseason as a wild card because Baltimore won or Toronto won. Or this is one of the years that the Red Sox win the AL East. The Red Sox have won a championship since a couple of them since 2 or 3. I think it's 2 at the very least since the last Yankee title. So I say all of that to say, you mentioned his name as well, Juan Soto. That's a contract that's looming. You know what you have to do in order to sign him, right? Let's just say, worst case scenario for the Yankees. You lose this World Series and you lose Juan Soto in the offseason. And let me go ahead and add a little foo right on top. You either lose him to the Mets or the Dodgers. I think the Bronx will be burning. I do. 15 years without one, and then to get that close and lose, I think their climb back up, will be a little steeper than the Dodgers if it were to be the other way around.
I feel like it's much worse. You lost it. That Simple City. That'd be a major problem. But the Dodgers, on the other hand, I mean, they're the only team that compete with the Yankees in terms of spending money.
What about the Angels? Not art anymore. They bet not go get Juan Soto when you can't figure out anything else.
You did that too. Okay. I wasn't going to bring it. You did that too.
It tends to happen.
Yeah, so the Yankees, they have to. It's really down there. You picked up John Collins. You got it. You picked up Boston. You got it. What more?
You got young talent. It's gonna take closing the show. Period. That's just what it's gonna take. It's gonna take them It's gonna take them doing what the Niners have been unable to do. That's it. This is their chance. It appears. And the funny thing is, if they win, obviously the likelihood of you bringing back Juan Soto probably goes up a little bit, right? Granted, it's not his first World Series if he does win, so keep that in mind. I mean, New York has embraced him in a different way. I feel like he's been embraced since Stephen Washington. Obviously, he had that one stint or that quick stint in San Diego, but I don't think anybody would compare Padres fans to Yankee fans anyway. Game 1 of the World Series is set to take place on Friday. Tomorrow from Dodger Stadium, 5:08 p.m. from Chavez Ravine. I'm excited about it. Pardon. I was actually at the T-Mobile Arena when news broke about Fernando Valenzuela, who recently passed away at the age of 63 years old. And obviously my dad's tip in being a lifelong Dodger fan is about Nando. Let's get right to it. As we all may have heard by now, a few days ago, we lost a true Dodger legend. Rest in peace to Fernando Valenzuela, and prayers and condolences to his family. Being a lifelong Dodger fan, this one hits hard because I witnessed Fernando mania in real time. In 1981, this 20-year-old rookie from Mexico came on the scene and captured everyone's attention. I think it's safe to say that because of Fernando mania, more Hispanic fans are drawn to the Dodgers because either they grew up during Fernando's run or their parents or other family members did. For me personally, watching this young, pudgy kid on the mound with his high leg wind up, and I always wondered what he was looking at under the bill of his cap. Fernando had a rookie year that all young baseball players dream of. Keep note of these guys. You guys can listen these off. A 35-inning scoreless streak. He was the All-Star game starting pitcher. He won the Cy Young Rookie of the Year, and he capped it off with the World Series title. And just to add to that, no other pitcher in Major League history has accomplished all of those feats over their entire career. Fernando did it in 1 year. Los Angeles baseball has had legendary moments, many legendary moments Kirk Gibson's epic walk-off homer in Game 1 of the 1988 World Series, Sandy Koufax's perfect game in 1965, Rick Monday saving the American flag from being burned by protesters in the Dodger Stadium outfield in 1976, or Orel Hershiser's, my dad actually said Orel Bulldog Hershiser's 59 consecutive scoreless inning pitching streak in 1988 are among those. But for some reason, one feat that stands out to me and should be placed up there with all of these great moments, rather, is in a 1986 All-Star game, Fernando Valenzuela struck out 5 consecutive All-American All-Stars: Don Mattingly, Cal Ripken, Jesse Barfield, Lou Whitaker, and Teddy Higuera. The only other pitcher to accomplish that feat was the giant screwballing ace Carl Hubble. Did the same feat in 1934, except he fed 5 consecutive Hall of Famers: Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Jimmy Fox, Al Simmons, and Joe Cronin. Thanks for the memories, Fernando. There must have been a big game coming up in heaven, and they needed you to pitch. My dad finished it off by saying, "Rest in peace to El Toro." I don't know, man. I grew up hearing my dad talk about Nando. Yeah, man. Only thing I can kind of like wrap my head around is just the constant memories that I know my dad. I mean, if you guys kind of witnessed it, if you guys know this radio show, you guys are familiar with this radio show, that's a longer tip-in than most from my dad. So there's definitely an added jolt of energy when it comes to what he's been able to do in terms of being a Dodger fan and witnessing some of the things that he's been able to witness. Obviously, Fernando Valenzuela being one of those people as well. I also want to mention really quick before we get out of here the passing of Amir Abdur-Rahim, who actually passed away at the age of 43 years old after having complications from a procedure earlier today. Just prayers and condolences to him. A lot going on in the world. Definitely, we know how it gets when it creeps toward the last quarter of the year, holiday time, and things of that nature in general. So just hug your loved ones. Definitely hug on them, love on them. It's important to do so. You never know when you'll get another opportunity to do it. And as I said before, man, I hope it puts into perspective for you guys. We sit here, we cover children's games, literally, and we are lucky to kind of call it a career, right? So the things that are important in life are the people that you share it with every single day. And there's no time like the present than to let that be known. I think that's it for me, man. Until next time, guys, keep on talking.